Aloha kākou. Ano ai me ka vilina a ke aloha. We want to welcome you all to this land called Kalahui Pua'a. As we sit on the lanai, the porch of the Eva Parker Woods Cottage, as we virtually talk story with all of you out there. And we do this each month in a way to continue something that we started over 23 years ago, an event called Twilight at Kalahui Pua'a, an event of which we invited special guests, whether they were kupuna, our respected elders, whether they were our paniolo or cowboys, or entertainers, or hula masters. Over the many years, we've had so many wonderful people to come up here to share their story and talk about themselves and the things that they do and the gifts that they share with others with their talents or through their talents. And so, as we hopefully you all out there are gathering around and grabbing your favorite beverage or inupunahele, as we would say, and perhaps your pupus, your favorite thing to munch on, or a bento box. Please join us for this next hour as we basically have fun here on the lanai of the Eva Parker Woods Cottage and just visit with a very very dear friend that we're so grateful that she could join us and we all consider ourselves part of one great ohana and we want to say mahalo nui loa to Ku'ulei Keakealani and let me just give this to you. Kalamai.
Mahalo anui. Ala.
As you can see, Dan is taking the ends of the maile and just entwined them together as it symbolically connects the two together. As you entwine the ends, it creates a circle that bears the spirit of aloha in which it's presented. And it will always be there to encircle ku'ulei. As our kupuna would say, that aloha in which it was presented will not easily fall away when the ends are entwined like that.
Mahalo nui, mahalo no ke
Ai,
kono.
mahalo no ko kipa ana mai a mākou I Kalahui Pua'ani. O kia hale li'i o Iwa Paka.
Hale nani.
Ai, he hale nani ke ia.
Oh, yeah, no. Thank you for inviting. It's a privilege to definitely sit on the lanai and to be present here at Kalahui Pua'a in this lihikai, pilikai area as the sun is kind of descending as Kanehoalani kind of makes his departure, letting us know that day is coming to a close and soon enough, Po, the evening, the night will take over and so we're just appreciative so much always and humbled for the invite. The kahea comes, we pane.
Ai, mahalo hanui loa ia oi no ke hele ana mai, kipa mai. Oi ahi.
Pleasure. It is a pleasure. Mahalo pia.
And there's so many things that went on, through this month of June. We celebrate Kamehameha Day and honoring our great mo'i, our King Kamehameha, also Pai'ea, who united these islands together and created the Kingdom of Hawaii and started from this island where he was born. We are in South Kohala, so this area that we're in now, this Wahipana, is called Kalahui Pua'a, which is in Ilikupono, within Waimea, which is a larger Okana. but within the Moku, the district of Kohala. So Kamehameha was born in North Kohala, and
Ai, koko ikea.
yes, yes, and so we celebrate this month,
Surely.
Kamehameha week, and if you ever get to Kapa'au in Kohala and see the statue, you may still see some of the beautiful leis that were draped on the statue on June 11th, which was designated as Kamehameha Day.
Pololei, something that we didn't have this year and last is usually the Kamehameha Day parades that
Yes.
I think
Yes.
us seated here
We-
have been privileged to be a part of, whether it's in the hometown, the Onehanau of Keakealani Kamehameha of Kohala, or maybe Kamehameha Day in Kona.
Ai.
But those parades,
Ai ole waimea.
or Waimea, yes, Hilo, Oahu.
Yes.
We have definitely
All
had
the
the privilege to ride in some of
Aye,
those,
aye,
aye.
ride Pa'u in the Kamehameha Day celebration. And yes, to the all, I believe that Keali'i Kamehameha is as an example to us, a hero, just so many ways for us to look to him and how he was, and as an example for us of how we can be. Such a humble ali'i, one that sought counsel and listened, right? It's one thing to perhaps receive the counsel of your kahuna, of your counsel, but it's a whole nother thing to ho'olono, to ho'olohe, and to heed those, the advice, if we will, of the people that you seek counsel for, which is, I believe, one of the beautiful things of Keali'i Kamehameha. So I think very applicable in all of our lives. We have people that we seek counsel, and I think that's just a beautiful way we kind of follow suit. But there's so many attributes of Keali'i Kamehameha. My home is certainly, of course, I will always acknowledge Waimea as this place that has raised us. But the Onehanau and the Aina Kupuna is North Kona. So we go from this larger district of Kohala Loko, Kohala Vaho, where we're at, South Kohala. And then we push right into, well, not push, we ease
We gently
into,
move.
gently move, thank you,
Ne'e,
into
ne'e,
North
ne'e.
Kona, ne'e, ne'e.
Ne'emalie.
Yes, Ne'emalie into the North Kona district. But two of the grandest examples, there's some writings that say the genius of Kamehameha were two fish ponds that do not and no longer exist in the landscape of North Kona. Two fish ponds, two lokoi'a, and one in our birth ahupua'a of Pu'uanahulu and Pu'uawa'a. This fish pond, this lokoi'a, traversed actually these two ahupua'a of Pu'uanahulu and Pu'uawa'a called Wainanali'i fish pond. Said to be miles wide and miles long. And then the second fish pond of Kamehameha in the North Kona district is closer, a little bit more south from us in Pu'uanahulu, but we're now into like Mahai'ula, all the way out to Kalai'o Keahole. This was actually a fish pond that was named after him, his birth name,
Yeah,
Kaloko Opai'ea.
Ai.
Again, we see today Pahoihoi, and that Tutupele has come, and Ai'ia, she has eaten and consumed the two fish ponds, Wainanali'i and Kaloko Opai'ea. There's remnant ponds that we know that do exist at Ka'elehuluhulu Mahai'ula, for us Kaloko Okiholo in the Ahupua'a of Pu'uawa'a, but this grandeur, and to look at this ali'i Kamehameha in his workings and dealings, certainly social order, all of those things, but the masses of kanaka that he had to care, the caretakers, these kia'iloko of these two wonderful fish ponds, now residing under the pele. And just interesting, couple of in these accounts, it's going to say that Tutu Pele was onno for the Ava of Kiholo. And she was Ono for the Aku of Kaupulehu and Kaelehuluhulu. But yeah, so many things to attribute to Kamehameha and other ali'i, of course. But yes, this month,
Yes.
June 11th in particular, La Kamehameha, put forth by his grandson, I believe, Kamehameha the fifth, the fifth, declared this La Kamehameha for his grandfather.
Yes. And talking about lokoi, about fish ponds, of which, we have all of these lokoi here, of which Kamehameha would also visit this area of Kalahuipua, as well as the ponds of Wainanali'i and Paia. And so, there's stories, there's mo'olelo all along this coast of these fish ponds. And, we have this flow right here, right in our backyard here, and it's called Kaniku.
Oh, yeah.
And I know there's a very, very interesting mo'olelo, very interesting story connected to that. And if you could please share that story.
Surely. Well, I'll definitely share what I know, right?
Yes.
And to elevate this olelo no e awa ale pau ka ike I ka halau ho'okahi, that all knowledge is not sought gained from one halau, that there's so many halau that we can look at, and these knowledge bases, if you will. And so I can bring forward the things that I know, or the mo'olelo that were shared with me, or things that I read, retrieve, hear. So certainly, because it does traverse both moku.
Yes.
Kaniku is in this South Kohala region right here at Kalahuipua'a, which, by the way, and I think you folks have probably heard Grandpa, certainly probably one of the first teachers in my life, my own grandfather, Robert Hawai'i Keakealani, but we would hear him pronounce this place Kalahei Pua'a. Kalahui Pua'a, Kalahei Pua'a. So definitely a little bit of a different meaning, in a way, to hui or to hay. You're going to hui, gather them up, and then you can hay, or you could catch them. So, but we see those pronunciation differences, right? And so I think that's also something to elevate the beauty of our language. Kananiaka olelo makuahine, ka olelo oiwi, the native language of this place, this homeland, in the variants, if you will, of the puana, the pronunciation of words, and that it is beautiful to honor, right? Alepau ka ike I ka halau ho'okahi. So it's not just one and only one, but to open the mindscape and receive different ike. So to what I know of Kaniku, there is actually I don't know if counterpart, but another mo'o. So here we bring forward this, what we know of as mo'o wahine. And to the extent of what I remember from the teachings, mo'o inanea is the ancestress of all mo'o wahine. She's going to lead a migration that comes from, see, even that, right? Some people will say a mythical land in the clouds, in the sky, called Ku'ulei Keakealani. That, however, does not mean for us that it's mythical, which means it's not true. It's fictitious. It doesn't exist. We absolutely know Ku'ulei Keakealani, this space up in the clouds, this land in the clouds, which is where the mo'o come from, that it says mo'o inanea will lead the migration of mo'o here to Pu'uanahulu, Hawaii, and she is going to ho'onohonoho. She sets all of them up in their respective homes, lokoi'a, bog areas, right? Got to have water. These are mo'o wahine, water guardian spirits. So here it is. Kaniku and Kanimoi were two mo'o wahine, again set in place by mo'o inanea. And here's the beautiful thing too, is mo'o inanea, after she sets all of the mo'o in their homes, she is going to assume the grandest home of them all, which is Waiau atop Mauna Wakea. She assumes that as her home. So Kaniku and Kanimoy, the two mo'o wahine that we do know occupied, were the residents of the Lokoi'a Wainanali'i. It says that when Tutupele comes, now we got to remember this is a flow that's going to come into, yes, our home of North Kona that comes in from Mauna Loa. All the other flows of us in North Kona are all Hualalai, rightfully Hualalai flows. But this one comes in from Mauna Loa. And it does say that Pele is going to cover Lilo. These two mo'o wahine, they become pohaku forms. So I, again, stand privileged and blessed, where this might be pre-children for me, pre-daughters.
BC days, we say.
Yes.
Before children.
Before children.
Pre-C. Okay, pre-children, I like that, yes. And in that time, but I have a particular, one of my uncles, my Uncle Raymond Alapa'i, who's living, of course he was here, but he was living on the island of Oahu. And Uncle, I will say, was definitely he was one of my go-to. And I would call my cousin and I would say, Pastor Barb, can you book a flight for Daddy home? And Uncle would come. And right at this point, I'm looking at Hawaiian language newspapers. Unuhi, we do the best we can to translate. And I'm telling Uncle, Uncle, tu mo'o wahine, kaniku and kanimoy. He says, girly, which for me, right, this term of affection. So Uncle says, girly, I'll go take you. You like see kaniku and kanimoy? I said, sure, Uncle. He said, I'll go come home. I'll go tell your cousin, make me, I'll go lele home. I said, okay, you go come home. And, yeah, we're talking of a Paniolo family. So here's my uncle in his cowboy boots and his jeans. And my uncle Howard Alapa'i. These two men walked me in the midst of the pahoy hoy, and we come. We come into the presence of Kaniku and Kanimoy, much like their names. Kaniku is this stone that stands high. And not too far from her is another pohaku, moi, Kanimoy. Uncle relays forward, again, right, these are all family stories that are just continued. That tradition of ha'i mo'olelo, that you speak, you hear, you listen, you receive, and then you become the repository, right? You hold these stories, you remember the day and all of the things that was of that day, all of the sensorial input. Hot, right? Can you imagine being out in the midst of this lava field? And a small wind is gonna blow. And Uncle will say, pili a keia. First time I ever heard that, and I'm thinking, pili a? Yeah, hakela. Uncle, what is the pili a? He says, keia makani. This breeze that is blowing, it belongs to Kaniku. The pili a is a makani, a wind of Kaniku, of this flow. So here's this thing, right, that I know uncle folks, my dad, they didn't much helu these things. The transmission of knowledge for them was that they were told these things. And it was probably they themselves who stood in the lava fields of Kaniku as perhaps they were on their way to Kapalaua or Keaveki. And the breeze blew and their fathers or uncles said, this is the Pili'a wind. So for me to be able to receive this ike kupuna in those ways, later I learned this lovely word, tacit knowledge. I'm like, oh, I know what is tacit knowledge. I think I've experienced for much of my life tacit knowledge. So anyway, kaniku and kanimoy, these mo'o wahine, that when the flow came down and Pele is eating, consuming, if you will, the fish ponds of Wainanali'i, that the two mo'o get covered and changed lilo ipohaku. They now take, till today, their stone forms. However, in the remnant pond of Kiholo that is called Kaloko o Kiholo, we acknowledge, till this day, we acknowledge mo'o wahine, kaniku and kanimoy, that they, in their mo'o wahine form, continue to swim, live, and are the resident mo'o of Kaloko o Kiholo. So indeed, you used this word earlier, yavahipana, a pana. These are places, spaces that are noted. They have a story. They are celebrated, honored. So I think also, if we know the place name, it informs us right off the bat. I spent the day at Kalaimano. In the Vela of Kona, we had a lovely, our second summer group in, now that things are kind of, right, we're getting
Opening up.
Thank you, Auntie.
Yeah.
And just that, we said to the students today, this is the name of the place that you are at, Kalaimano. Anything in this name, this word that you might know, and maybe 2, 3 of the children say, yeah, mano, and we're like, oh, nice, you know that word. What is that word? Mano means shark. We're like, you're right. Mano means shark. So again, just knowing the name of this place, what does it tell you? It informs you already by just knowing its name. And knowing the meaning of these inoa, right? These inoa aina, these place names. So I think that's equally important when we look at Vahipana and the stories of place, receiving information, receiving them, and then being able to ha'iho, to know these mo'olelo, internalize them, experience them, feel them, right? Because I could have read what is the Pili'a wind. I think it's documented. I'm not too sure. We better go look. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But to say, I feel the Pili'a wind. I have felt the Pili'a wind. I know its attributes or what it is. Much like we can say from Waimea, oh yes, we know the Kipu'upu'u. Or there is a wind of Hualalai that's called the Pohu wind. The Pohu wind is like this barely noticeable wind. Like you gotta look at the koali vine and the koali flower, which is like really delicate, that purple and white. And when you see the petals just like almost barely move, oh, that's the makani pohu of Hualalai. So, you know, I think I just really, one of my big things, I think that has become a part of the life or koho'ia, that this path has already been set, chosen, things like that. Koho ole, you no more choice. Is that you just fall into this line, into this succession within your genealogy that you eventually assume your place. So to all of the people within my ohana and others like Kepa Meli, a dear friend that we mutually have great love for, to be able to, and this was pre-children. When I give birth to my first daughter, Kamehana, Kepa and I is out on the landscape, and if it's my turn to go into this particular vahi and I pow feed Kamehana, I would give Kamehana to Kepa and he would burp her and then we would switch off. I would take Kamehana from him and then his turn to go into this particular space that we were working in that particular day. But just to always honor the source, the kumu, many kumu, the different halau that you're able to receive knowledge from is
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to backtrack a little bit for those that are not familiar with the term mo'ovahine. We know it, mo'o being lizard, vahine female, but not in the sense that we know it. I think the closest that maybe people can relate to and understanding are the mermaids, mermen, but the bottom half has not the fishtail, the hi'u, like that. Yeah, not the hi'ui'a, but more the hi'umo'o. And so, but they, huelo. But you know, they serve the same function, yeah, in terms of guardians.
right.
But here in Hawaii, I think it's especially noted, yeah. But I just wanted to
Mahalo, vehe vehe.
vehe
Moakaka.
that, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
And Ku'ulei, you know, you're so fortunate and blessed to really grow up amongst many teachers that helped to bring you up in these very special wahipana, these celebrated places, and growing up in a place called Pu'uanahulu, and you know, with a Paniolo family, you know, with great cowboys of Hawaii, and you know, I remember your tutu telling us about this place, you know, which you know there's different names, different ways to pronounce this name of this area, you know, Kalahui Pua'a, Kalahei Pua'a, which is what he mentioned, and I, you know, listened as I said, oh, because you know, I've heard 4 different versions of this name, and so in listening to your Tutu's version of it, Kalahei Pua'a, you know, and hey in reference to snaring, and you know, Pua'a is in reference to pig, and apparently, you know, this is a name that gives us an insight to what our kupuna saw and experienced in this place here, where this area, which served as an oasis for our kupuna with these natural ponds, also served as an oasis for animals such as pua'a, such as pigs. And so many pigs were attracted to this area. And one thing that it was very interesting that, you know, they would climb the trees, the pigs would gather under the trees, and then they would drop the rope on the one that they wanted.
Hey, yeah.
Hey, yeah. So
And
that's
snare,
the
yeah.
hey Kalahei Pua'a.
Cool.
Yes.
Catch the one that they want.
That they wanted.
Yeah,
Hey.
koho, the
Their
choice
choice.
one.
Oh, right.
Choice
How
pua'a.
lovely. You know, so Kiholo also, at a time, right, pigs were raised at Kiholo, and I'm not sure if you folks had, I know we haven't had the privilege of eating pua'a pigs raised on coconut. But Dad
It was
will
here.
always
Here.
say,
Here.
yeah.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
imagine that's why I'm thinking probably the
Yes.
same over here.
Yes,
that
momona.
Dad will tell us, you guys have not eaten kalua pig or any such thing. If you have not eaten pig raised on coconut, you guys have no idea how
Yes.
no
Yes.
it
Yes,
is.
the aila.
And is
Yes,
that what?
the aila. And,
And
you know, it
momona.
actually carries that taste, that slight taste of coconut.
Oh.
You know, when you eat that pig, that pua'a, which is fed on coconut. So when we were here in 1972, staying with the Kihe family,
I saw
you know,
that
there were pua'a right here on this corner that
Yeah.
were raised.
At the other end of the
And,
of Lahui Pua'a
And
pond.
so, of course, what we had the most of was coconut. So we threw the whole coconut, and that pig would just tear it
Break
up
'em
and
up.
Yeah,
grab into
amazing.
the nut,
So good.
and you know, and eat the coconut. So the pigs here were very momona, very fat,
I'm sure ono.
and very ono.
Yes.
Yes, we
I'm
had an
sure.
Ono
ibu on the side of the
Ooh,
house, in
okay,
which every once in a while we would kalua a pig.
yeah,
And
down here
kulolo.
too.
You're right down here.
Oh,
And
kulolo.
Aye.
Oh, that is
Those
childhood.
were
That
wonderful
pudding,
memories.
that
Wonderful memories.
grated kalo and the fresh coconut
Yes.
milk.
Right.
Oh.
No can
the
beat
wayumi.
yeah.
Yes. But you know, all these areas, we're all really connected. You know, Kalahui Pua'a, Pu'uanahulu, uh, Kapalawa, Kiholo, all these areas, Ka'upulehu, you know, all these areas were all kind of connected, and all of our, you know, kupuna, they knew these areas very well. They knew the mo'olelo, the stories of these areas, and you know, and could actually point to where point out where the stories took place and what became of these people, you know, in these stories. And so it's amazing to see the stories and the time that we stayed down at Kapalawa.
Kapalawa, aye.
With, you know, we camped out there with Uncle Joe Makai and with Larry Kimura and a few of us Haumana students from UH. You know, we're so fortunate
Special.
to be there those times, and the sharing of the stories of those areas as well, the mo'olelo.
They
And,
are indeed.
Yeah.
Growing up, Pu'uanahulu was, you know, something that I would never trade. Not like we could, but I don't know, just growing up there. Our cousins were more like our brothers and sisters. And here's the thing, right, that I think my mo'olelo or my story can be others as well, that you can relate, you can maupopo that. But just, we had maybe all of 3 channels, and most of the time, Grandpa them would tell us, go make the antenna. Oh, no, hold them right there. Okay, or else they had the foil on
The
top.
rabbit ears, the rabbit ear antennas.
Yeah.
Just so that you can catch the picture on the TV.
That it'll come
Yeah.
in a little clearer, but 3 channels, 3, 9, and 12, I think. And, you know, it really was, I think, amazing in that our mode of transportation was really our horses or our feet. And Grandma would pack us peanut butter jelly sandwich, and we would have like a thermos of orange exchange juice.
Orange or grape.
Yeah, yeah, we like orange exchange, and we would saddle up. We had several Shetland ponies too, but and we would go pick up a couple cousins, or if not, just my sister and I, and we would ride what we call down Makai, and picnic. We would be taken out of Pu'uanahulu maybe once a week, because Grandma and Grandpa were devout members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we would go to what is the old Mormon church in town. And if we were lucky, if had some kala, we would have a Happy Meal. And that was like, oh my gosh, a Happy Meal from McDonald's, and then back home to Pu'uanahulu. You know, we like literally walked the roads. If we would go to Uncle Francis Dem's house, or down to Grandma Mary's house, or down to Tutu David's house, there was only 1 mango tree in Pu'uanahulu. We knew it was in Grandpa Daniel Alapai's yard. But it was like a saying of the kupuna, don't plant mango tree, because they would say, man go, man go. So it was kind of like a,
haleia,
so kind of premonition kind. So, which I thought later on, I was like, yeah, and we only have 1 mango, and we all love mango, but only 1 mango tree in Pu'uanahulu in Grandpa Daniel's yard. And so, you know, growing up, you hear stuff like that. Like when they say, oh, no, not a mango tree, because man go. You know, just certain things that you grow up with. No whistle at night. Maybe that's, I don't know if you never saw, most Hawaiians grew up like with that kind of stuff. Yeah, no whistle at night. We couldn't sweep at night. We couldn't cut our nails at night. Toenails or fingernails could not be cut at night. And hair, couldn't cut hair at night. So, I mean, I just think that there were these things. And then when there were funeral, wedding, baby party, kind of big events like that, my grandparents' house, Tutu Robert and Grandma Margaret's house, was where everybody gathered. And it was mostly the siblings, right? Grandma, Grandma Mary, Tutu David, Grandpa Robert, the siblings and their children and us, the Mo'opuna, pretty much made up all of Pu'uanahulu. But in Grandma and Grandpa's house, there's these suji doors. And when the suji doors closed and we knew we had to hamau or kuli, they were in the kitchen talking. And they would only talk maka'olelo, makuahine. So we always heard and we knew something big was happening. They were planning something. We would try listen, what's happening, or we would hear ue, then we knew, oh, halapaha kekahi, ua make kekahi. So we were always around the language. If there was a kalua pig to be done, it was always done at Grandpa Robert's house. So that akua, the gathering of the kupuna was at our house because we lived with Grandma and Grandpa. So to always be around the olelo, when you hanai in that, when you are raised in these ways, cannot help but then that's how we end up raising our children, right? We do what we know. And so if it's the paniolo lifestyle, that work ethic, that value of mai moloa, hana nui, whether you kekamahine or kekikane, even if you kekamahine, if you're a girl, believe me, you still got a hana nui.
Still gonna work.
Still got
work
a
like a
hana.
man. Yeah.
Just like the man, almost. But anyway, I think those are some of the fondest memories, are the values that we were raised in. Okay, I just gotta say one more hali'a aloha. This is Halloween, and I don't know, maybe we used to say, I think I was Donald Duck and my sister was Mickey Mouse for however many years. We used the same costume till we outgrow it. And we only had, right, maybe 4 houses at the most to go trick-or-treating, one of which was ours. But we would go to my Uncle Francis and Lani Ha'o's house. My Auntie Lani is a Keakealani, married Uncle Francis Ha'o. And we get our mea that Uncle puts into our bag, right? And so here's the thing. We're driving home, and you guys got to know, right? My mama is, she's from the Cree Nation and Haole, but she's driving us home, and she's saying, what is that smell? So we're like, what, Mom? What are you? She's like, what are you guys eating? What is that? What am I smelling? Meanwhile, we had already broken into the dry opelu.
Oh.
That Uncle Francis, that was what we would get trick-or-treat, is stuff like that, dry opelu. And oh my gosh, right? And you giving them in the back seat, and we're like, we're just eating our opelu, Mom. And she said, opelu? How you got opelu? That's what we got for trick-or-treat from Uncle Francis. So
I love that.
those, yeah. Any day I would take dry opelu for a trick-or-treat.
Yes.
Over candy. But yeah.
As paniolo, the fisherman in Levi
Thank
candy.
you. Yes. Paniolo is also kanaka lavai'a. That Dad is just as much paniolo as he is a kanaka okai. So we were literally fed from our forest, from our ocean. But yeah, anyway, that was kind of a cute Halloween trick-or-treat. You get dry opelu nut candy.
Lovely.
Well, there's a beautiful song that was written by, was it Uncle David Alapa'i?
David Kahino Alapa'i.
About this beautiful place that you talk about, Pu'uanahulu. And such a beautiful song, very descriptive of the area, and Pu'uanahulu referring to the many hills. Yeah.
This is like all of the lines are beautiful, but 2 that stand out, Grandpa David's opening line, Nani vale Pu'uanahulu. Nani vale. That word vale, Nani vale, really makes it, you accentuate, or it's like an extreme beauty. So he's writing of the homeland, right? So he's saying, Nani vale Pu'uanahulu, that this Pu'uanahulu is of extreme and utmost beauty. And then another line, Lu ia mai ko aloha. He's expressing and declaring his love for his people his ohana there that he refers to as the manuo'o. But those are two lines in the mele that are favorites of mine, that declaration of your love for your ohana and your love of your place. Insane. How extraordinarily beautiful are you, Pu'uanahulu. Anyway,
Na pu'u.
so, hi, na pu'u.
A multitude of hills.
Yeah.
Nani vale Pu'uanahulu I ka iu iu. Aina tani kaulana pu'u kini kini. Nani vale Pu'uanahulu I ka iu iu. Aina pali kaulana pu'u kini kini. Luia mai, koko aloha. E na manu, o hulu mele mele. Luia mai, koko aloha. E na manu, hulu mele mele. E na manu, hulu mele mele. Ua helu ia na Pu'uanahulu. Ka paia, ka inoa Pu'uanahulu. Ua helu ia na Pu'uanahulu. Ka paia, ka inoa Pu'uanahulu. Luia mai, koko aloha. E na manu, hulu mele mele. Luia mai, koko aloha. E na manu, hulu mele mele. E na manu, hulu mele mele. Na ka betera nani o ke akua. Ka paia, ka inoa kalamaku o ke ola. Na ka betera nani o ke akua. Ka paia, ka inoa kalamaku o ke ola. Luia mai, koko aloha. E na manu, hulu mele mele. Luia mai, koko aloha. E na manu, hulu mele mele. E na manu, hulu mele mele. Haina ia mai, ana kapuana. Kaulana, kauinoa Pu'uanahulu. noa Pu'uanahulu Kaulana Koinoa Pu'uanahulu Luia mai Luia mai Koko aloha E na manu o hulu mele mele Luia mai Koko aloha E na manu o hulu mele mele E na manu o hulu mele mele
Yay! Nani, nani,
Yes.
nani vale.
And so
Nani vale.
growing up in that area,
Oh,
Ku'ulei.
Ka'aalan loa.
Ai.
Mahalo.
Kapua tuberose.
When
Hi.
you get back to the hotel, boy, people are gonna know that you're there. Your presence just
Waft
that
my.
lovely.
They waft my name.
Just for that.
Oh, no.
And yeah,
Ala no ke
Oh.
ia
Lama
makua mahalo.
puakane.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Right.
mahalo.
Lama
Kea
puakane
la
coming up.
Kulea,
To our daddies.
Imayana.
Oh,
Yes.
mahalo
Oh,
piha.
thank
Nani no.
you. Ay,
Ay.
mahalo.
Nani no nalei.
I know what a wonderful time, yeah. You know, celebrating Kinkamemeha and
Father.
the places that were born and the historic places like Pu'uanahulu and Father's Day and
Right.
so many
Nui na
good
mea.
things.
Do we
Right.
still have time
Good
for
To
things.
celebrate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hula oi.
sure.
Nani no
And so
kaulan.
there's
Holo kamanava, yeah.
you know there's a ranch there. I mean, maybe you can share a little bit about Pu'uwawa'a.
Sure. Pu'uwa'awa'a. Well, we're going to back up a little bit. Pu'uwa'awa'a Ranch was actually Pu'uanahulu Ranch. The original ranch was Pu'uanahulu. There was a lease pushed out to 3 Kanaka out of Oahu, and they began Pu'uanahulu Ranch. Soon enough, the ranching operations will come across and consume even the lands of Pu'uwa'awa'a. And then you're going to see, and you can just kind of track that succession of who would be the ranch, or the lease of the ranch owners. You will definitely find Francis Tasmania Spencer. He's going to be the person who actually takes the lease from the 3 Kanaka, Mai'eha, Kanaka Ole, and Kaukuna, were the 3 original Kanaka that started Pu'uanahulu Ranch. Then it goes to Francis Tasmania Spencer. Then it goes to, there's going to be kind of Dillingham and Hind. And then finally, Nuo Bonnet. So that's kind of your succession of how the ranching operations in these Ahupua, and eventually what would be the main ranch or the original ranch of Pu'uanahulu eventually moves over, and the heart of the ranch becomes Pu'uwa'awa'a wide. The entire Ahupua is leased for the ranching operations, which is why you're going to see that at one point Kiholo, the beach of Kiholo, was part of the ranching operation. So Pipi, where what we call Ho'au Pipi, swam out to the little boat. And then once the little boat is piha, taken out to, I think Dad says, Humu'ula, Wai Ale Ale, were the 2 big steamships.
Where
That
they would swim the
inter-island
cattle out.
steamships
Yes.
that-
Yeah,
Pipi,
the
So
steamships
they would
hoist it up.
hoist them up.
Then off they go to Oahu. So exportation of pipi, honey, tallow, pua'a were all shipped out of Kiholo, again, during the ranching operations. But yeah, Pu'uwa'awa'a Ranch, their land holdings were pretty vast. Dad is going to be born into Pu'uwa'awa'a Ranch, but he's going to tell you that he was able to work from us home, North Kona, Pu'uanahulu, Pu'uwa'awa, all the way to like Honomalino, Okoi, those most southern, what they call CQE Hop. These are all kind of your areas way out, kind of
Honomalino
Kona
side.
South
Ka'u
Kona.
boundary.
Yeah, South Kona.
South Kona,
Yeah.
definitely
Kona
Kona.
Hema.
Kona Hema. Kailua, Kailua Kona. I mean, places that we drive today. If you're in the truck with my dad, he's going to say, oh, there's our old chute. And sure enough, you look in the Ekoa and you're like, oh my God, there is the old loading chute, even Holualoa. So they had the land holdings of Pu'uwa'awa Ranch again were pretty vast and expansive. So luckily, again, a privilege, right? When you look at it that way. One of Dad's favorite hats, which is kind of this, of course, papale paniolo, but smaller, little more pepe than we could even imagine. But we asked him, we're like, Dad, is that really your favorite cowboy hat? Not your nice, black, I don't know, Stetson or whatever, right? The nice one you got from Vegas one year. And he's like, oh, no, that's not my punahele. So we said, why is this particular hat your punahele? He said, because I get lepo, I get dirt on this hat from every Mauna. From every Mauna that he has ever worked and ridden and spent a lot of his life.
Pohai'ia.
Yeah, so Pu'uwa'awa Ranch, definitely one that is near and dear. It's the home, the homelands, and yeah, that beautiful song. My sister was privileged to get married at Pu'uanahulu, what we know of as the big house. Pu'uanahulu, they're at the base of Pu'uwa'awa. But there is a beautiful mele.
Yes.
Ebenlo was part of that
Yes.
ranching.
Yes, Ebinlo, and I think that is the hind low partnership
Yeah,
connection.
right.
Yeah. But Pu'uanahulu is the lovely
Yes.
hale.
In its
there.
translation, it's so befitting. Yeah, the fullness of heaven. Pu'uanahulu.
And a song that was written by Helen Beamer, as she was heading up from Paniel and heading up to Pu'uwa'a to attend a birthday party there.
Yeah, with Annabelle
Yeah.
Ruddle.
Yes,
See
with
all of these
Annabelle
names and
Ruddle.
the connections.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Rattle,
Yes.
Low,
Yes.
Hind.
Yes, so the Ruddles are part of the Low family.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Ebenlo. Yes.
And so by the time they got to their destination, the song was called.
Yeah.
Oh.
A song which she named after the name of the home, Pu'uanahulu, the fullness of heaven.
Beautiful. Nani
Ihana
kauleo
Kalani.
ki'e. Nani kahula.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful.
It's a song that we rarely do, so Anna's usually there helping me with the words, but it is a beautiful
It is
song.
a beautiful
is.
composition of Helen
beautiful
Deshay.
place.
Yes, and to know that Mo'olelo, right, like behind the song, she was on to a birthday party
yes.
there, and
Yeah.
that line, no nakale, so she's
Yeah.
probably talking about the woman who she was going to
Yes,
gift the lei
yes,
to, and
yes.
that's who she's saying is a
Yes.
beautiful woman.
Yes. And
Yes.
I
Lovely.
think it was Mauna Hines, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And apparently she traveled. So Helelo, Keli'i Heleloa,
Heleloa.
traveled afar and brought these amazing plants
Back.
back home, and which she planted at Pu'uanahulu. And
Sweet.
so the beautiful fragrance.
Mhm.
Yes, a'ala. Beautiful.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So that's actually something cool too, yeah, that we've kind of been touching on tonight is kind of looking at the name of a place and how it is quite informative. But even that, Amele, and how that can tell the story. Who I just think those are kind of those gems and
Yes.
the beauty, kananio, kaolelo, kananio,
Aye.
that thing, that mea, that beautiful to compose, to hakumele.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that memory is preserved in a song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it really
Yes.
creates such a picture in your mind, you know,
Mhm.
when you hear the lyrics of this beautiful composition. Helen Deshay Beamer was just an amazing composer, just genius.
Yeah.
And,
Polole.
yeah, we're so fortunate and blessed to have so many of our mele that have that
Polole.
continue to that we continue to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Just
And so
amazing.
for you, you know, growing up there, Pu'uanahulu, and spending time at Pu'uawa'a, and growing up with an amazing family in Paniolo, and now you get to share this story that of a project that you folks have embarked upon.
Up
You
in
know, up in
Pu'uawa'a, Kiholo.
Pu'uawa'a,
We've
and
got a
yes,
few projects.
yeah, and one that is being filmed now, a film project. Yes,
Oh.
that
The videography of,
right,
of
that
of your family, you and Dee
Yes.
especially, and
Yes. I would always say it's
Ohana.
more these two lovely filmmakers, Liz and Allison. I was like, yes, call my sister. Go talk to my sister. And I wouldn't say that I was kind of roped in. I mean, it is a family thing, but you know, Dee Dee definitely more so than I. She really preserves and maintains kind of the Paniolo life more than me. I kind of veered off, not so, I wouldn't say veered off, but I went into education, cultural education, Hawaiian language, where pretty much she maintains the ancestral homelands through a lease from the state, and she has her herd there, her and her husband, my sweet, lovely, wonderful brother-in-law, Kamuela Bertelman, but they have their pipi in Pu'uanahulu, and they have their DHHL, Nie Nie. So Dee Dee, I think, is much closer to of course, the lifestyle, it's ingrained. We can never depart from the lifestyle. But I think for her being an employee, I think 10 years now at Parker Ranch, and this has always been her realm. And horses is her life. I mean, of course, her children, her mo'opuna, but she has a herd of horses, which is probably her first love. Of course, I love my horses too, but anyway, yes, so there is this project, a film project that again, for me, that the focus be certainly capturing more Dee Dee and her essence. She carries forward the Hawaii High School Rodeo Association. She was part of the original, the first ever Team Hawaii to go to the national finals and represent Hawaii. 1988 was the first. So we can do the math, however many years, here we are, 2021, and she's still in. She has seen, I think, children, people that she's gone to the national finals with, their children, her children have come through right in its high school. So once you're a senior, you're out, basically. But And now she's graduated her last child. Now it's her grandchildren that's in it. So Dee Dee's been in for several decades, maintaining that kind of aspect of Paniolo life is kind of rodeos, parade, pa'u, but there's this lifestyle, right? That is when you maintain your own herd, when you know up and down what breeding season and how, anyway, I just kind of amplify my sister and her maintenance of really those ways that we were, of course, we were born and raised in, but that we continue to maintain today. So living close to the land, knowing your land, knowing how to be good stewards of not just the land, but the animals that you keep, right? To be kind of that shepherds in a way. Shepherd kind of make me think of keeping sheep, but it's that notion, right? That you're caring for and you're raising
hanai,
food.
yeah.
You hanai, you raise and so that's commonplace for all of our children to know how to raise your own pipi or pigs or goats or sheep and then to process. So my daughter is 10 and she's been skinning pigs for a couple years now, and she's getting better and getting better at it. But that, right, that you know how to feed yourself, you know how to care for the land, care for yourself, this reciprocity, the relationship that you have to Aina, that you serve your Aina. You are a servant to your Aina, to your Kai, and that your needs are dependent on Aina and Kai, and that does not supersede or trump what might be better for the Opihi. That I need Opihi because I'm going to have a Pa'ina, Oleloa. If it is not the time to harvest Opihi because they're spawning, it is their time, yes, better believe we ain't taking Opihi. And that follows true for everything else. There is a time and a season, and I can stand in front of that one mango tree in Pu'uanahulu and be saying, please give me mangoes, but if it's not mango season, hoka, right? I'm not going to have any mango. So really you kind of know your place in all of this life. And
Yeah, the name of this project, does it have a name yet? I
I'm
know
not
it's been in
sure if we're
process.
calling it Wahine Paniolo. I don't know that we have a name.
It's still in the
It's still in
making.
process.
Thank
It's
you.
still in process.
Still yet
Yes,
to Pukana.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of
But-
course,
but-
with
but
all
stay
things,
tuned for that.
yeah,
you know,
and all
it'll
things
be
too.
out.
There's that financial part of
Yeah,
support
sure.
that you can always
Yes.
look.
Sure.
Well,
And
need.
mostly, for me, it's like for the two gals, the filmmakers, Liz and Allison, right, that they're, because we all have needs that we need to tend to. And so, yeah, that financial part, of course, you know, we'll, yeah, it's so
Be
it
glad to
is.
accept any support that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, stay tuned on that project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When it's ready to puka, maybe we'll
Kihoihoi,
come
yeah.
back.
Yes.
We'll come back and introduce it and
Yes.
launch. I don't know what they call
Yeah.
it, but
Do a launch on that and show the world
ooh,
the work at Pu'uanahulu.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was such a lovely time when we were able to visit with you and Didi on your land.
Mm.
To feel
Yeah.
the makani.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful
Yeah.
place, and we always hope and pray that it will always remain the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We understand change is inevitable, but there are those things that shouldn't change and places that shouldn't change. But yeah, that is our pule as well. Definitely, we hold that high up in pule. Yeah, but
Well, I know we've had such a lovely time here, here on the porch of the Eva Parker Woods Cottage and just catching up with things and talking story and about these very, very special places, our Vahipana, these celebrated places.
These storied lands.
Yeah.
oh, storied landscape,
And,
cultural landscape.
You know, perhaps, and I'm not sure, on our time element, but I know time is kind of swiftly gone
I know, I
past.
look at the sun
and
as it
just run
lowers
away.
down below the roof
But
line.
we may have gone over an hour. I
Over
think.
time.
Just little bit. But we will maybe continue again. You know, I know there's more stories down the coast that we haven't really touched on yet, and songs of those stories. But we would hold that for another time.
Surely.
And we just you just have to all stay tuned. And you know, one day when we can actually bring back our twilight at Kalahui Pua, and you know, we may come sooner than we think, but you know, the time when we can have people gathered here on the Saturdays closest to the full moon. I mean, I people ask all the time, when are we going to do it? And I said, when the time is right.
Ikawaku pono.
Oh, yeah, no. Pololei
When it's,
Keakealani.
when it's safe, and
Ai.
when we can have a gathering of people together again.
Ai,
And
Palekana.
we will do it. So,
Indeed.
what do we maybe close this time with just our, as we always close our twilight with a song that speaks of this island written by Reverend Lorenzo Lyons. A song called Hawai'i Aloha. And before we do that, maybe we could say mahalo to those that help to keep this
Yes.
program going. Of course,
Yes,
to
our
Mauna
wonderful
Lani, our Mauna Lani, Auberge
Auberge
Resort,
collection.
and Friends of the Future who are always back there and helped us throughout the years. Our nonprofit Friends of the
Yes,
Future.
and of course those that are behind the scenes that really make this all possible. From setup to sound and filming, we have those that are our backbone here.
Oh, yeah, no.
Mahalo nui
Yeah,
to
nui.
John and Susan and Allison, as well as to Bob and Sophie, who always come to help with kokua. And we miss Mele.
Yeah, Tita Mele.
Yeah, yes.
She's
Tita
good?
Mele.
Yes, I think
She's
so. We
good.
haven't seen her
Seen
for a
her for a
while, but
while.
I
Yeah,
understand she's
yeah.
good. And then, of course,
A PE.
PE.
PE laeha, of course. Love hoi hoi.
Yeah, fai. And my
Yes.
koko, my ohana,
Yeah.
cousin Lehua
Yes.
Kamaka, who has come to Kako'o, and yeah, so my mahalo all the way around to Kupuna, who have passed on to the ancestor realm, and Kupuna that are still here, and then Kupuna that is Aina. Those are the greatest teachers. So to all of the Kumu Vai, all around us. Mahalo
It
piha
brings
to
to
you
mind
guys.
just a very a cousin of mine that just recently passed, sister Alberta Ahin Louie, and her mother was a teacher in Hilo. And during the summer breaks in Hilo, she would come to Pu'uanahulu and Miloli'i to teach during the coffee. It was during summertime because the students were off during, they were working. They were in school because they would be off during coffee.
Aw, coffee season.
Yeah. In the fall. So it reminds me of that time.
Beautiful. Hola. Hola.
But you're ready for Hawai'i Aloha.
E Hawai'i e ku'one hanau e ku'uhome kulai vine Oli no au i nā pono lani o aloha, no Hawai'i. Mau ke aloha, mau ke aloha, no We want to say mahalo to all of you who join us from wherever you are
Yes.
to take care of each other, to malama each other, to keep each other safe and to stay healthy, and to make sure you take care of your family as well as your friends and neighbors globally.
Aye.
We want to say mahalo nui loa and
And
aloha.
aloha and
Aloha
ahui
ko.
ho.
Aloha
Until we
kako.
meet again.
Ahui ho,
Aloha.
aloha nui.